Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening. Attempts to further delay a hearing into the deaths of 16 polo ponies on the Spirit of Tasmania 4 years ago has been quashed by a magistrate. The ship's operator has pleaded not guilty to dozens of charges under the Animal Welfare Act stemming from the animals' deaths. Talia Jordan has the story.
A 3-week hearing was set to get underway here at the Burnie Magistrates Court this morning when TT Line's 4 lawyers argued for it to be pushed back, claiming the prosecution had given them a report which they had not had time to consider. Defence lawyer Robert Taylor said his team received a report from the prosecution late on Friday afternoon and needed time to consider it. They say it claimed the horses weren't individually stalled, meaning the case went from being about ventilation and heat to one about their closeness and ability to hurt each other. Mr Taylor said it was clear Magistrate Leanne Topfer wanted the hearing to continue and said it brought no joy to TT Line to delay proceedings again. Magistrate Topfer said she'd be very reluctant to do that. There are 4 of you, how long would you need? Crown Prosecutor Simon Nicholson said the report was something the defence team had seen before and rejected the allegation the defence had not been able to properly consider its case. After considering the request for 3 hours, Magistrate Topfer decided to continue the hearing, saying TT Line's lawyers' claims were not overly new. The first witness is expected to give evidence tomorrow. The owner of the ponies has also been charged and entered a plea of guilty. A lawyer for Andrew Williams appeared briefly in the court this morning. His client will reappear on August 30. Talia Jordan, 7 Tasmania News.
The Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicides has resumed its hearings in Hobart. A widow of a veteran who took his life told the Commission of their struggle to be given adequate support and the cost she continues to bear. And a warning, some may find the contents of this story distressing.
Michael Paul loved his job in the Air Force maintaining aircraft.
He talked about this, about how great it was with the Air Force, that everything was 100% safety.
Facing the Royal Commission in Hobart today, his wife told of how it was also his downfall. After raising concerns about the safety of Nomad aircraft in the late 1980s, she says he was told to keep quiet. One eventually crashed in the mid-1990s, killing 4 people, and Michael was never the same.
I would come home and he would be sitting in the dark under the tree, like hypervigilant, and I wouldn't even know he was sitting there.
After battling mental illness, Michael died by suicide in 2004. His widow says the Department of Veterans Affairs rejected his claim for support before his passing.
But he drove to the hearing. They said he was capable to work.
It was a preview to her struggle, which included fighting for one of her sons. Her pleas, once ignored by the Department of Veterans Affairs, only gained attention after she spoke with the media.
Within 24 hours, I had DVA calling me. People assigned to my case. They awarded me a war widow's pension.
Also securing a $130,000 payment. But Ms. Paul, who works in the financial industry, says it came with a devastating discovery which affects her pension.
Of that money, I now pay back $500 a fortnight, and that is for the rest of my life. I would never have entered into that agreement as a banker.
She estimates it's cost her more than $200,000.
I am now actually paying for my husband's death. I am now paying more than they paid me.
I can't tell you how immeasurably beneficial it is for us, for the Royal Commission, to hear from people who have gone through such experiences.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
And if you or anyone you know needs support, there are services available, including Lifeline on 13 11 14. The Greens are calling on the federal government to reject the Robbins Island wind farm development. Rosalie Woodruff says environment ministers should heed a recent federal court decision to halt work at MMG's new tailings mine.
It is a critical space for swift parrots and orange-bellied parrots. We have Tasmanian devils, and these are all animals that need to be protected.
A UPC renewable spokesperson has told The Australian they had taken massive precautions to reduce environmental impacts. To the Commonwealth Games now, and Tasmania's golden girl Georgia Baker is now a triple Commonwealth Games champion after adding a road race gold to her haul. She was chaperoned to a champagne finish by a tight-knit Aussie team, inspiring her youngest fans back home.
As Georgia Baker pushed towards another Games gold, students at her old primary school in Perth were here to cheer.
My whole family is just cheering, saying, "Go Georgia, go Georgia." She's just inspiring.
They rode every bump as the Aussies kept the peloton in a pen until the green and gold parted ways to open a clear path for Georgia's golden opportunity.
It's going to be very, very, very close, but it is victory for Georgia Baker.
A true team effort, but Georgia gets to keep the medal.
The girls were just amazing. It's a real honour to ride with this team.
As she stood atop the podium, completing her hat-trick haul, cousin Maggie was watching from home.
Really exciting. I get to cheer for her when she races.
Just like all of Tasmania, but as a regular guest speaker at Perth Primary, their cheers were even louder.
Because you know what she's gone through and because she's told you personally.
Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
A man accused of an unprovoked stabbing at a Kings Meadows gym will learn his fate next week. CCTV footage played in court allegedly showed Paul Justin Smythe approaching the victim with a knife in the weight section. The injured man was transported to the LGH with serious wounds to his face and hand requiring surgery. The court heard Mr Smythe was then arrested at South Launceston's McDonald's with another smaller knife in his pocket. The judge will hand down a decision on August 17. A team of IMAS researchers has found salmon farms are contributing to algal blooms on the Tasman Peninsula. The EPA and state government now considering the report as the state plots its fish future.
Long passed off as just an environmentalist cause, the impacts of Tasman Peninsula salmon farms have been laid out in a new report.
So we're fairly certain that the farm is causing changes on the reef directly adjacent to the farm, 100 metres away.
Studying the area around Tassel's Long Bay, an IMAS research team has found enriched nutrients, which promote algal blooms, 1,000 metres away, but can't draw a definitive link that far away, thanks to the lack of a baseline value.
It's likely to be contributing in some way to the nutrient loadings in Long Bay. From our report, we can't actually tell how much.
The Environmental Protection Authority is now considering its response to the report, which it commissioned. A spokesperson for Tassal acknowledged it, saying nuisance algae was identified in the region long before the pens were installed 5 years ago. Advocates for halting the industry say this report alone is proof farms should be removed from Long Bay.
They've got independent scientists, professors, reporters, all sorts of community advocates talking about this and asking to be heard.
We looked over at the salmon farm and we thought, right, this is the only thing that's changed in this bay in the last 18 months.
A recent Legislative Council inquiry recommended reducing inshore fin fish farming sites like Long Bay, which are more susceptible to the industry's ill effects. A state government spokesperson said this report would be considered in the context of the 10-year plan being drafted.
Frankly, when we see scientific report after scientific report talking about the harmful environmental impacts of salmon farming on our local marine life and our environment, then it damages the brand of salmon in Tasmania as well.
A fishy business under the microscope. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
A school in the north is putting art on display to stand with Ukraine. More than 100 artists from around the world have contributed to the online auction, which has already raised thousands of dollars.
A source of light in dark times, a local Launceston school is doing its part to give back through art.
The concept of the butterfly effect and what started as a concept, I'm looking around these walls with the most magnificent art.
Launceston Grammar is hosting an online art auction with all proceeds going to UNICEF's Ukraine Emergency Appeal.
I was driving home and thinking, there's got to be something that we can do that's small. Contacted a few artists and then that just really snowballed.
A small idea making a big impact. 107 artists have donated their works, with the exhibition already raising close to $40,000.
If a small community in a small state of Australia can raise that amount of money just to help some people who desperately need it, who have been displaced by war, and then the whole world turned upside down. I think that's fantastic.
And it's been really well received by our community.
A range of colour and artistry on display, with the highest bid already at $2,500 for this piece by Susanna Coleman-Brown. While Launceston Grammar's head of art, Paul Snell, has not only donated his time but work as well.
I've donated a couple of works for the show. You need to kind of lead by example, I suppose.
Bidding ends at 7 p.m. on August 18. To make an offer, head to Launceston Grammar's school's website. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania has quadrupled its antiviral prescription rates over the past month, hoping to relieve pressure on the state's healthcare system. GPs are now receiving more money to assess whether patients fit the brief for oral COVID medication.
An express ticket to vital COVID treatment.
While not a replacement for vaccination or COVID-safe behaviours, antivirals may help stop COVID-19 infection from becoming severe and possibly hospitalisation or death.
Last week, the Health Department announced an extra $1 million worth of GP grant funding to fast-track pre-approval for prescription antiviral COVID treatments. Vulnerable and immunocompromised Tasmanians, the ideal candidates.
Tasmania has quadrupled its rate of prescribing antivirals in July compared to June this year.
A GP who is an expert in their individual patient's care is going to choose the most appropriate antiviral for the most appropriate patient.
Clinics will choose how to spend the funds.
Some practices will bring on an extra staff member, such as an extra practice nurse, to call people back. Other times it may be a GP being able to assign half a day purely to assessing patients.
The government is willing to underwrite the medicines in regional and rural community pharmacies, allowing them to stock medication without forking out funds for unused products.
This will help to ensure that Tasmanians have access to these potentially life-saving treatments, no matter where they live.
Hospital numbers have almost halved from their recent peak, with 84 patients currently fighting off COVID, 25 of them being treated specifically for the virus. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Preparations have begun to retrieve the second tug stuck at the bottom of the Mersey River. Following yesterday's successful salvage of the York Cove tug, Tasport's insurer shipowners continued to assess the remaining vessel today. Tasport says it has pushed back the second lift until tomorrow due to the complexities of the operation on Sunday. Tasmanian climber Lewis Taylor has exceeded his $158,000 target in his Ables Challenge, scaling Kunyani Mount Wellington in the snow. Lewis has been raising money to support Cancer Council's Transport to Treatment program. Rolls Cycles stepping in at the end to help him pass his target goal. Donations are open until the end of September. There's movement on the long-awaited Bridgewater Bridge. A contract has been signed with construction firm McConnell Dowell for design and construction, valued at $669 million. Work is slated to begin later this year.
Along with Georgia Baker's gold in the women's road race, Launceston's Sam Fox also competed in the men's event, finishing 48th. While Hobart Hurricane Nicola Carey picked up a gold medal as part of our cricket squad, despite not playing a single game in the tournament. And Eddie Ockenden and Josh Belts could complete the gold rush tonight when the Kookaburras take on India. North Launceston's Lachlan Cowan and Clarence's Tom McCallum are among 67 young footballers invited to this year's AFL Draft Combine, which tests players ahead of the draft. Meanwhile, Launceston's Brodie Palfreman has continued his prolific season, contributing to his side's 41-point win over Clarence on Saturday.
It's always good towards the pointy end of the season to really start building that form before the finals start, so we're really happy with our performance. We just sort of stuck to our structures and know what works well, so it was a good outcome for the boys, and I think our midfield really went well.
After claiming 18 disposals, the midfielder is going into this weekend's top-of-the-table clash against Kingborough brimming with confidence. And we have a winner in the Cripps TSL Player of the Year, but first let's take a look at how round 18 played out. Tyler Carter has reeled in the votes for Kingborough after beating Glenorchy at KG5. As we heard a moment ago, Brodie Palfreman impressed for the Blues against Clarence. But it is Sam Siggins who has stitched up the award following a best on ground showing against North Hobart. Siggins now has an unassailable lead with 2 rounds to go. He's polled 27. The race for the runner-up remains tight. Only a handful of votes separates Joby Harper, powerfulman Eddie Cole and Kieran Lovell. And the North West Coast, Jed Beaton has slipped to 20th in the motocross GP. He placed 18th in the latest round in Sweden. And that wraps up Monday Night Sport, Louise.
Good evening. Temperatures struggled a bit today. Hobart 13, Launceston 14, just 12 in the northwest. Strawn's 15 was the high after a -7 at Laowini. Low Head, St Helens and the Bass Strait Islands all 13. Smithton, Friendly Beaches and Grove 12. Laowini a top of 7. A few showers over the far northwest and King Island as widespread cloud stuck to that region. Just partly cloudy weather elsewhere. Areas of low cloud over southeastern Australia. A frontal band of cloud is there over the South Australian coast with more approaching southwest WA. Moist inflow from the northwest tropics has cloud cover over central Western Australia. Tomorrow, the ridge of high pressure moves our way, set to bring settled weather, which is good news, and that front crosses over WA. Winds without much puff tomorrow, around 10 knots over all coastlines with swells at 2 metres in western and southern waters. A road weather alert exists though. That's a warning of icy conditions on the roads in the central north, Midlands, east coast, upper Derwent Valley and the southeast. Hobart for Tuesday, 14 after a cold night, a sunny day though. Mostly sunny for Adventure Bay, 12 the high, -3 for Tarraleah, partly cloudy 11 later in the day. Launceston 14 after -1, mostly sunny afternoon. Devonport a high of 13, as will Bridgewater be searching for 13 as well. 12 the top for Burnie and partly cloudy, Strawn 13 and 12 the high for Marrawar. For St Helens tomorrow 13, mostly sunny, sunny for Swansea, 13 also for Whitemark. On Wednesday the fine weather hangs in for another day with a shower moving in over Burnie though. More widespread shower activity on Thursday, not so much over the east and southeast, and on Friday 100% chance of a shower for Burnie, grading to a 50% chance in Hobart. Now that system in the west has showers on the way for Perth, a sunny 18 in Adelaide tomorrow, fine and cool weather for Melbourne and Canberra, showers forecast for Sydney and a sunny 21 in Brisbane. And clear conditions over Hobart and Launceston, a little bit of cloud over Devonport. And that's the way the weather's shaping up, Louise. I hear you're in the chair for a little while. You remember to be nice to me now, won't you?
Remember, pointing's rude. I've told you that before. Thanks for that, Merv. And that's all your news for now. I'll be back later on with updates. Thanks so much for joining us. Good night.